Hey, welcome back to class. Today's class is going to be different, okay? So today is self-assessment day. So what that means is we're going to run through every technique for the white belt curriculum, to earn your white belt curriculum, and then we're going to grade it. We're going to grade it together, and we're going to go through all of the common mistakes, and I'm going to allow you to figure out what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right, and what you need to improve on. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started with a light warm-up, nothing too heavy. You're welcome to do more if you would like to get a better warm-up. That's on you. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with some jumping jacks. And now let's go ahead and do our punch and switch. All right, let's go down into our sumo splits. And I want you kind of to bounce a little bit and rock a little bit from one side to the other. Stretch those adductor muscles right there in the middle. All right, let's drop a knee. Let's lean forward and get that hip, and then come back and get that hamstring. Forward to the hip. Back to the hamstring. Forward to the hip. Back. Forward. Back. And one more. Forward. And back. And other side. Same thing. Forward. Stretch that hip flexor right there. Backward. Stretch the hamstrings. And back. Forward. And back. One more. Forward. And back. Come up. Shake it out. Open up the hips. Hip openers. Take a breath in. And out, in and out. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to watch this video on a laptop or a TV or something so that your phone is free. I want you to set your phone up on a tripod in front of you, and I want it about chest height, right? I want your phone to be about at your chest. Try not to set it down on the ground, angled upwards or angled downwards. Chest height, straight forward in front of you. So I want you to watch the video of me doing this, and I want your phone in front of you, in front of the screen, recording you as you're doing this, okay? So try to figure that out. Pause the video if you need to and get something. It doesn't actually have to be your phone. If you have some other sort of recording device, you're more than welcome to do that. Maybe your laptop records it and you want to do that. That's fine as well. I just need something, again, about chest height for you to be able to record yourself doing these techniques. Now, I'm going to change angles, and I'm going to tell you which angles to do. We're going to be doing 3 different angles. The first angle is going to be directly towards the front, facing the camera, and then we'll do 90 degrees off to the right and 90 degrees off to the left, okay? So we're going to do 3 different angles, and we're going to do each technique 3 times from those 3 different angles. Now, I'm going to do the techniques, but here's the big but. You can't copy me exactly. I am going to make mistakes on almost every one of these techniques. I'm gonna do that on purpose, okay? I'm not gonna tell you what mistakes that I'm making until later. Ideally, you're able to find out what mistakes are, so this will help you to be able to spot mistakes on someone else, and ideally help you to spot mistakes on yourself. But I want you doing the techniques with me. Just know I am going to be making mistakes, so I want you to do your best to recall how to do these techniques properly, knowing that if you copy me directly, you will be making mistakes, okay? So let's get started. The way that these tests work is you introduce yourself, bow in and say, Adam Gerald, testing for white belt in Taekwondo. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna do stances. So first stance is our attention stance, just like this. So we're gonna go relaxed, and we'll do it 3 times. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Then we're gonna go to the side, same thing. 1, 2, and 3. And from the other side, 1, 2, 3. Okay, now our next stance is our ready stance. So we're gonna go from our attention stance to our ready stance. So attention stance, ready stance. 1, 2, and 3. And from the side, 1, 2, 3. And the other side. 1, 2, 3. Okay, next thing that we're gonna do is gonna be our fighting stance. Fighting stance. 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we're gonna go into our sparring stance. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Other side. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we're going to go and do our footwork technique, so our switching. So we're gonna be in our sparring stance and switch. And now when we do the switch, I want you to switch 1, 2, right? So I want you to go all the way one way and then to the other way. Ready? Begin. 1, 2, 3. Side. 1, 2, 3. Last side. 1, 2, 3. Okay, next thing we're gonna do, hand techniques. So we're gonna do our jab. Now we're gonna be doing our hand techniques on both sides. Ready? Jab. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And switch stances. So now I'm gonna have my right lead. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And now we're gonna go cross. Back to that left lead, cross. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And switch your stances. So now have your right lead. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Last side. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to our blocks. So with this, I want you to do 1 on both sides, 2, 3 on both sides, right? So we're going to do this all while facing one direction. So I will be alternating. So we're going to do 6 total facing one side, then 6 the other side, 6 the other side. So it's 3 on each side. Ready? Low blocks. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. That was our low block. Now we're going to move on to our high block. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. From our high blocks, we're going to move on to our kicks. So we're going to do our front snap kick first. So we're going to do all 3 angles with our right leg, and then we'll do all 3 angles with our left leg. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to put our left leg in the back and kick with our left leg. Begin. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to do our half roundhouse kick. Same thing, right leg, 3 angles, and then left leg, 3 angles. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And left leg. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we're going to do solo drills. So solo drills repeat on both sides. So we're only going to do this, we're actually going to do this twice on each side. Okay, because we're going to hit both of our sides and because they come down and back, especially with our first one. Ready? Solo drill number 1. Spine stance. And begin. Turn another direction. So that's 1 and 2. Okay, And now, because this is a side to side, you're actually able to see both. So I'm just gonna do it 2 times, only facing one sideways direction. Ready? Begin. 1. And 2. Okay, now we're gonna go and we're gonna do solo drill number 2. So we're gonna do this one 2 times facing the front and 2 times facing each direction. Ready? Begin. That's 1. 2. 'Turn to the side. 1. 2. 'Turn. 1. 2. And face back to the front. Okay, so that was our solo drills. The last thing that we're going to do is going to be our kicking requirement. Now I changed the time on this. So the time is going to be 10 front snap kicks on each leg within 32 seconds. Okay, so not 30 seconds, not 40 seconds. It used to be 40. I said in one of the classes that I was going to change it to 30. Went back and looked at all the tests that I've done, and I think 32 is a good average. It makes it a little bit hard for some people. It's a little challenging, but it's not too easy like the 40-second marker was. Okay, so I'm going to set a timer so that I know I need to get done before then, and we're going to go for it. So you only get 1 attempt at this, and you only have to do it. You can do it from the front, or you can do it from the side. That's going to be purely up to you. You can see different things from each side. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do mine facing the side. Again, that's up to you. Ready, set, begin. 1, 2, 3. Make sure you bring it all the way back. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I had to switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, time. Okay, hopefully you're able to make it within that time. If you weren't, you gotta practice a little bit more, get a little bit more of that speed in order to be able to make this. Okay, so that was what the practice test looks like. That's what the test looks like. If you are going to be doing it with me where we're actually grading, this has to be one pure video, which means you can't cut the video at any point. It's just gotta be one video all the way through. If you cut it, you gotta redo it, okay? So now what I'm gonna do, I am going to show you all of the common mistakes that I've seen for the past few years from the white belt exam. So what I want you to do is I want you to pull up your Let's Train Taekwondo training manual. If you don't have that yet, or it's not been released yet, then go down to the link below and open up the file and you'll see something. And it'll look pretty similar to this, okay? I'll also have it on the screen for you to see. Now, with this, in the red, it shows the common mistakes. And I have a little shorthand names for some of these things, but it'll show you the common mistakes that most people make. So I'm gonna go down this list and I'm gonna show you what these mistakes are. And then I want you to watch your own video and check off, did you do this, yes? Or did you do it, no? All right, did you make this mistake? Or did you not make this mistake? So, first thing, is gonna be chariot, or our attention stance. With the attention stance, common mistake, fingers apart, right? Make sure your fingers are together, right? Some people have the fist, and I'm okay with that, but if you're gonna have the hands straight, which is the way that I do it, fingers together, not all apart. The next one, toes apart. Notice how there's this gap in between my toes down here, right? Some people will stand like this. Attention stance, toes are together, balls of the feet should be touching. The third one is the penguin clap. So penguin clap, you can hear this sound. Call it penguin clap because it's like a penguin clapping, right? There's no need to penguin clap. Don't do that. The next thing is going to be our ready stance, or our junbei. So one of the common mistakes is just too fast. Right, this needs to be with a breath in and a breath out. It should take about 5 seconds. So you breathe in and out. If you're going here, it's too fast. Next common mistake, feet don't end at the same time, right? So I want my heel to touch the ground as my hands end into their position. So as I take my breath in, I step out, notice my heel is up off the ground, and then as I breathe out, hands and feet end at the same time. So the common mistake is people don't end their hands and the feet at the same time. Next common mistake, arms straight, right? This completely straight arm. Notice how low my hands are down here. Bend your elbows, right? Kind of like low blocks. The hands should be up and around the knot of your belt, right? Maybe you have really long arms and it's a little bit lower, but have the arms bent, right? Don't have these straight arms. The next thing, fighting stance. So with your fighting stance, one of the common mistakes is this lean forward, where the shoulders are over the knees and sometimes even over the toes, right? And they're really heavy lean forward here. So try to avoid that. Have your weight distributed 50-50 between both of your legs. The next one for fighting stance is the elbows are too far out. Right? See how far my elbows are from my body? My shoulders are gonna get exhausted if I'm actually fighting and holding my arms up this whole time. I can relax my arms. My elbows are down by my side. It gives me better protection too. Right here, somebody tries to kick at me, there's not this open space. But my hands can still be close to my face with my elbows relaxing right by my side. And then feet in line. So having your feet too much in this straight line with a fighting stance, right? Sparring stance, that's okay. Fighting stance, it's not okay, right? So we don't want our feet in the straight line. We want them offset. If you're looking directly at me, you should be able to see both of my feet clearly, not one hidden behind the other. Next is going to be sparring stance. So in your sparring stance, one of the common mistakes is still leaning forward, right? Having too much weight on that front leg. Now you can see that this leg is clearly more bent than this leg. If I was to draw a line straight down my body, the line is closer to my front foot than my back foot, meaning I have more weight on my front foot. So avoid having too much weight or that imbalance. We want about a 50-50 weight distribution with our sparring stance. The next is having our chest too squared, right? So if my feet are in line like this, my chest is really squared, I have all these targets open. And remember, this is sparring stance, so most of these targets are what they're aiming for. So I want to kind of hide them. I hide one target, which is the side, towards the back. I hide the other one with my elbow, and this one's here, and then I'm protecting my face. So I'm at this smaller target and more bladed. It also allows me to do back spinning kicks much easier. If I have this squared chest, it's easier to tell that I'm gonna do a back spinning kick whenever I have to turn all this way in order to do something, okay? It's easier to do that kick if I'm already in this weighted off stance. It's harder to tell that that's coming. Next is gonna be switching. So with our switching, one of the common mistakes is that people will jump here, but they won't turn the chest from side to side. They just scissor switch, right? I've showed scissor switching, but that's not the one for the test. The one for the test is the full Taekwondo switch. Here, chest goes one direction, chest goes all the way to the other direction. don't scissor switch whenever you're doing your Taekwondo switching. Okay, another is the upper body is just not relaxed at all. It's just really tense, and their switches look like this. Right? You can kind of see this tension here. My arms aren't moving, they're not relaxed, they're not floating around. They're tight and tense. Relax that upper body. Next is gonna be our jab for our hand techniques. So, quite a few on this one. First one, leaning forward as you're punching this at the waist, leaning forward. Try to avoid doing that. We twist to get our reach. We don't lean to get our reach. Next, elbow up too early. So this one makes it like a hammer fist. So if I'm doing my jab and I raise my elbow up as I extend, it's a hammer fist. It's not an actual straight punch like that. So don't raise your elbow up too early. It's becoming a hammer fist. Another, not using the hip at all, right? We don't have to massively turn this hip, but I still want a little bit of pop with that hip as you throw your jab. Next, hands not returning to the face. Right? Is your hand coming back down here? All right? Make sure as you punch, it comes right back to the face. Now the next one's similar, but it's hand dropping from the face, which means whenever you're getting ready to punch, you drop the hand down here and then shoot it, all right? Notice how it was at the face, but then as I'm getting ready, I kind of pull my arm back so it's a more powerful punch, but notice how it dropped down to my chest. It's no longer at my face, and then I throw the punch. People do that a lot when they're trying to put more power into it, but it makes it easier to see and it makes it a little bit slower, okay? And it also takes away part of your shield so you can get hit at the same time. So be aware of that. And the last thing for the jab is just too slow, all right? Some people just do the jab too slow, right? Jab's gotta be a quick, snappy punch. It's gotta be fast, right? If it's too slow, it's not gonna do anything. Cross. Okay, so our cross, the first one is not turning the hips. So some people will punch their cross like this. I notice my belt isn't moving at all. All I'm doing is I'm extending with my chest and my triceps, like I'm bench pressing almost, right? That's not what we want. We want to turn our hips, right? Get that power from the legs as you're throwing your punch. Next is telegraphing. So the telegraph for a cross is this, right? It's kind of like dropping the hand. Just like I was talking about in the jab, it's kind of like dropping the hand for fire, right? Whether it stays by your face or comes down to your chest, if you pull it back like this, I know what punch is coming. It's this one, right? So don't telegraph your punch. Next, hand not returning to the face. So a lot of these are pretty similar to our jab, but if I drop it down afterwards, I get hit, right? I bring it back to my face, protect my space. Don't drop it down afterwards and get hit and get knocked out. Next, not pushing off the back foot, right? I want to use this calf muscle into it. So I could turn my hips and keep that heel down. Right? I get a little bit of hip turn, but it kind of stops me at a certain point if my heel's down. If I raise it up, I can get a little bit more hip turn. I can also use that calf muscle in there with my punch. So make sure that you're not leaving that heel down. You're pressing off, pushing off with that back leg as you're throwing your cross. And the last one, again, like with the jab, too slow, okay? I have to practice some of my crosses at a higher rate of speed, right? It's okay to go slow to get the technique down. Once you start to feel comfortable with the technique, you need to pick up the pace. It's gotta be something that could reasonably hit somebody and not just have them do this and get out of the way. Okay. Next is our low block. So with the low block, one of the mistakes is people starting too low, right? So not all the way on top of the shoulder. Some people will start their low blocks down here, just above their elbow, right? It starts all the way up on top of that shoulder as we come down with that low block. Next, they're not starting with the palm of the hand towards the face, right? A lot of people will start with this palm down towards the shoulder like this. If I do that, I don't have any sort of a twist. I want to twist all of my blocks and all of my punches. Any hand technique really in Taekwondo is gonna have some form of a twisting motion at the end of it. If I start with my palm down towards the ground already, I don't get any sort of twisting. If I start with it towards my face, I can feel that my muscles are already kind of wound up, and I just release them and get that twist at the end. And then the last is going to be the non-blocking hand needs to be at the hip bone through the belt, right? So my hip bone is right here underneath my belt. I should feel my belt and my hip bone. So I don't want you going here, right? I don't want you going here. See how it's in front? I want it on the belt. Where you would do a hammer fist, that should be touching your hip bone through your belt. Anytime you do a block, your other hand is there. Next, high block. So just like not starting with the hand towards the face with your low block, if you don't start with the hand or the palm towards the sky with your high block, you won't have that twisting motion, right? So if I start with it just kind of down here, kind of already pointed down towards the ground or pointed towards me, I don't have that twist at the end. So I want to be here. Notice my palm is pointed towards me. And then at the end, I have that press out with that twist, okay? Make sure that you do have that twist there. Next is going to be going too far off to the side, right? A lot of people will block and their arm just kind of naturally comes here. Notice if something was coming downwards, there's nothing blocking there. I want to be able to block here, so I want my wrist in line with my opposite ear as I'm doing this block. I don't want my knuckles in line with my nose or my knuckles in line with my same side ear. Wrist in line with your opposite ear as you're doing this block, okay? And then the last thing is, just like with the low block, make sure that that hand goes to that belt. As I block, it should come here, not here, not here. Feel the hip bone through the belt. If you're not wearing a belt, feel your hip bone. Front kick. So with the front kick, the first one is not fully extending the knee. So that would be if I kick and I only get to this point and then I bring it back, right? See, I'm not fully extending my knee. I want to make sure that I kick, fully extend, and then bring it back. Don't partial kick and bring it back. A lot of times people do this to protect the knees. And I understand, I have a bad knee. I sprained it again 2 weeks ago. I sprain it all the time. I understand wanting to protect it, but if you're kicking in the air, you shouldn't be using a lot of power anyways, and it should be relatively controlled. I'm not just flicking a kick out in the air with a lot of power. Don't use power in kicks in the air unless it's really controlled, right? If you're gonna use power, you should be kicking on something that stops you from going past full extension, right? We don't wanna hyperextend our knee. Okay, the next thing is upper body too tense. Some people here, right? They're just very tight with their upper body as you're doing the kicks. Relax, relax. Float your arms out, right? Hands are up, moving. They're not tense as I throw my kicks, right? They're just up and floating. Don't put that tension in. It's going to make your kicks a lot worse. Next, not pushing your hip forward. So I don't want to kick and leave my hip back behind this heel or over that heel. I want to press forward with my hips. I'm kind of reaching with my hips as I do this kick, right? That's how you're gonna actually hit a target. If I'm doing this, probably not gonna hit a target. Okay, so push those hips forward as you do your front kick. Next, dropping the head. Right? I don't wanna do a front kick and drop my head. I don't wanna do that, right? I'm gonna keep my head or my chin relatively level. My head might look like it's dropping a little bit, but only because I'm leaning back and my chin is staying at the same level, but because my upper body leans back, it might look like it's tucking down a little bit, which is very different than having this kind of lean forward and crunch forward and dropping, right? My shoulders go back and it looks like my head tilts a little bit, that's okay. My shoulders go forward as I do my kick, that's not okay. Next, forgetting to exhale. People do this one a lot. They hold their breath. And sometimes I can even hear the breath trying to come out as they do their kick. It'll be like, and then they exhale. And they make that little sound whenever they're trying to kick. Your body wants to exhale. It wants to breathe out when you're exerting energy. Let it. Breathe out every time you exert energy. So on these kicks, exhale. On every time you do a kick, exhale. Okay? It's gonna help you get significantly less tired and fatigued whenever you're doing this. Next, raising the knee up after full extension. okay? So this creates a kind of circular looking kick, right? So notice I'm getting full extension down here, but then I'm raising my knee up even higher afterwards, right? Wherever your full extension's at, that's the highest point your knee goes. If my full extension's here, it's the highest my knee goes. If my full extension's up here, then that's the highest my knee goes. Just because my knee can go up higher doesn't mean I need to bring it up higher afterwards, right? I only bring it to full extension, where that full extension is, and then I recoil it back, rechamber back. Don't circle that around as you do it. Okay? And that one is a very common one. I see a lot of new people doing that, so be aware of that. Half roundhouse kick. So half roundhouse kick. First is L shape, right? Make sure your head, hip, and knee are all in one straight line. Now, one thing that facilitates the L shape, I don't have it specifically marked, but is not pivoting enough. If I pivot less than 90 degrees, I'm likely to get this L shape, right? If I pivot all the way to my 180 degree mark, it's kind of hard to get that L shape and still have my knee pointed towards my target, towards the front. I would have to bring my knee all the way through. It just doesn't happen as much. So make sure you get that pivot, and that'll help a little bit, but also just think head, hip, knee, one line, not creating this L shape. The L is between my knee, my hip, and my shoulder, right? Boom, boom, boom. We don't want to create that L shape. And again, a lot of time pivoting a little bit more is what will fix that. Next, not bringing the kick back to the rear position, right? So bring it here and dropping down in front. Sometimes we'll drop it down in front. If you are actually hitting somebody with this, it probably will drop it down in front. That's okay. But remember, this is a training tool for right now. It's only a half a roundhouse kick. It's not even a full roundhouse kick. So I want to also practice pivoting and counter pivoting. So I want you to practice that counter pivoting. So whenever you're doing this, make sure that you are doing your counter pivots. And then the last thing is losing balance. Obviously, it's not very good if I'm constantly losing my balance with this. So this one just takes time and takes practice to be able to hold that balance and bring it back. Again, this is a training tool. The half roundhouse kick is a training tool to be able to develop other attributes that will help make kicking easier. Solo drill number 1. So on solo drill number 1, I'm looking for consistency in your kick. So if you did a great half roundhouse kick, I expect a great half roundhouse kick here as well. I don't want you to do a great half roundhouse kick whenever you're showing the technique individually and then do a kick like that during the solo drill, right? So I'm looking for that consistency. Some people, very consistent, and it's the exact same way. If they made a mistake individually, they'll make the same mistake in the combination, or vice versa. If they did it perfect individually, they'll do it perfect in the combination. But some people are a little different, and they'll do it perfectly individually, but as soon as you put it in a combination, I don't know what happened, right? So just be aware of that. I want that consistency between the individual techniques and the combination. The next I'm looking for is the weight transfer, right? I don't want you to pause and wait too long before going to the next half roundhouse kick. It should be immediate, right? I might pause up here, got a half roundhouse kick, it's good, but as soon as I touch, I want you to transfer that weight immediately and go into the next kick. Solo drill number 2. So solo drill number 2, I want the same kind of things, right? When you did the techniques individually, do they look exactly the same in the solo drill number 2, right? If I did my low block perfectly, but then in the combination, or in solo drill number 2, I'm now doing it here, right? I was here, individual, but now I'm here, right? Something happened, right? And we want to fix that. We want to make sure that you can do it the same way, and it's consistent between the individual techniques and the techniques when they're put in a combination. The next thing is pace, right? I want a consistent pace throughout. Now I can go consistently fast, I can go consistently slow, but I want consistent, I don't want choppy, right? So here's a consistently slowish pace. Right, not bad. Here's a consistently faster pace. Also not bad. Here's a choppy pace. not very good, right? They could be choppy in different ways, but I want you to kind of see the difference between that consistent pace and the choppy pace. And now, I'm not even gonna focus too much, because this is for white belt, on hips turning with each one or starting slow and then speeding up. But you can still, if we start slow and speed up and add that consistency, I can still be consistent with that acceleration, right? Because the time in between my moves is still consistent, even though I'm changing the pace during each individual technique. So be aware of that. Try to find the difference between choppy and flow. Okay, last one, kicking requirement. So the kicking requirement, again, like I said, I changed the time from 40 seconds to 32 seconds. So the first thing is, did you make the time? If you didn't make the time, well, we need to work on making the time, right? So speed that up a little bit. Next is, are the techniques done in the same way individually as they are whenever we chained 10 of them together on each side? Or are you now rushing it so much that the technique looks sloppy, right? I still want that nice, consistent looking technique. Next thing, did you lose your balance? This is a common thing, is people will kick and they'll put so much weight on this front leg, or they'll shift too hard this way, that whenever this foot's coming back, it actually has to kind of cross step over to prevent them from falling that way and then kick again, right? So be aware of your balance whenever you're doing multiple kicks. I don't want you to start to kind of stumble off to the side because your balance isn't there. So make sure that you are working on that balance. Okay, and that's it, right? So we went through the self-assessment. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to watch your own video with this sheet in hand, and I want you to mark any of these common mistakes that you made, and then I want you to work on fixing them, okay? So this is what I do when people submit tests to me. I look at their video and I know all the common mistakes, and then sometimes there's uncommon mistakes people make, and I've been doing it long enough that I can tell what that is. You might find that you're making some mistake after watching your video that I didn't list here, and that's okay. There's even a spot there in the notes section so that you can write that down, because this isn't all encompassing. There are more mistakes that you can make other than just these, but I want you to start to realize them and see them. Again, this is how I grade tests. I go through each technique and I write down what they are and then how you can fix them, okay? So I want you to identify what you're deficient in, and then I want you to work to improve it, okay? Other than that, yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you enjoyed doing this test. It's a little bit different, like I said, but this is how you're really going to learn to progress. Instead of just drilling and maybe doing the techniques wrong, we have to have something like this so that you can see your own technique. I will show you what it looks like wrong. I will show you what the common mistakes are, and then I need you to be able to identify them and fix them. And you can do this at any point. It doesn't have to be whenever I designate a self-assessment day. It doesn't have to be that. You can do it at any point to help improve. The more often you do it, the better you're gonna get, okay? If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below and I will get back to you on that. If you have any certain mistakes that you noticed that you made and you feel like commenting them down below, maybe you making something that you've identified that I didn't list, feel free to do that as well, and I'll see if I can comment back and see if I can help you. Other than that, have a great day, and I will see you in the next class.